Hello, friend. I want to talk to you today about patience and why patience is such an important quality for us to possess, such an important virtue which is spoken about in so many different spiritual traditions. Um, I was just thinking this week because here in the UK it's been a very, very hot week. We've had pretty high temperatures for us, and the weather's always changing, we know that. But it's pretty well known fact that violent crime and things like this, acts of violence and hot tempers and things like that tend to boil over at times when the temperature gets really hot. And I'm sure compared to a lot of countries, the UK never really gets that hot, but it's all about contrast, isn't it? And it's all about being relative. So because it's been relatively hot here, what you will notice is that often people's tempers get a bit frayed. You'll notice it a lot on the roads if you're out driving, maybe in the supermarket. And it's marked by a lot of impatience. Now, patience is very important because patience affects how we treat one another and how we treat other people. And it also affects our happiness and how we get through life generally. So if you want to live a happy and fulfilled and content life where you're not stressed out all of the time and you're not feeling sort of dragged down by the things of life, then patience is something that we all need to learn to practice. It's easy to talk about being patient. It's very easy to talk about, but it's much more difficult to actually cultivate patience in our lives. And meditation is a fantastic way to develop patience in our lives. To a certain extent, we pretty much have to start to be patient in order to actually develop a practice, certainly a daily practice of meditation, because the one thing that we seem in the 21st century to be absolutely averse to, absolutely allergic to almost, is boredom. We absolutely just cannot bear to sit around and do nothing. You know, we can't even do things like eat a meal without watching the television, or we can't wait in a queue somewhere without having to look at our phone and check it. We feel that we have to be constantly occupied with something all the time. And that's one of the reasons why in the 21st century we find it so hard to develop patience. I mean, the Buddhists have got some wonderful quotes from Buddha himself about patience, what patience is, and how to develop patience. You know, the Bible says, "Let patience have a perfect work." You'll find in the Talmud, in Judaism as well, talk about, you know, how patience is a thing that we all need to develop. And I think if we're talking about and thinking about our relationships with one another, the one of the things to sort of develop really is that ability. If somebody deliberately sort of comes to us to annoy us, to agitate us, to try and sort of provoke us in some way, then the best possible antidote to that sort of onslaught that we get from others is to be patient, really. And patience is not just about, I think a lot of people and a lot of times we think patience is about waiting for something. If I can wait for something, then I'm a patient person. But patience is a lot more than that. It's about learning to sort of endure things. You know, it's not a very glamorous concept, being patient, learning patience, but it's one of those things, one of those skills that if we can develop it in our lives, it will be an absolute game changer for us. So as we sit down to meditate, we're putting ourselves into a position that, okay, we get as comfortable as we can to start with, but any prolonged period of time sitting in one position without moving is going to make us restless. So we sit there, we endure the restlessness, we become aware of our bodies and the sensations that we have in the body, and that helps us to develop patience. We get a lot of stray thoughts that come into our heads that pass through, and the practice of meditation is to not focus on the thoughts. We don't clear our heads completely of thoughts. We don't try to block the thoughts, stop thinking. That's not what we do in meditation. But what we do is we observe the thoughts as they come and as they go. And during the time of meditation, we will get thoughts that will come and try to agitate us. There will be things that bother us that are on our minds. And in allowing those thoughts to just come and pass by, for us to acknowledge the thoughts for the moment, but then allow them to pass, and then to return our focus to something like the breath, or that single point that we're focusing on, that helps us to develop patience as well. So why is patience such a wonderful skill to have and to possess? Well, we all have to live in a world that we share with other people, and we all have to live a life that doesn't always necessarily go the way that we want it to go, would like it to go. And for all of the things, all of our interactions with other people and the world, and just something like the weather, for instance, as we were talking about the heat wave, you know, we don't have any control over most of those things. Actually, probably in our lives we have control over less than 1% of the things that happen to us. We like to think that we have a lot more control over things, but in reality we don't. Most of the things in our life, we just have to endure them. They come to us, and the way we cope with that is we generally get wound up, and we generally start to think that by fighting against these things we can make a difference. I've got no control over the fact that there's an aircraft flying over my head at the moment. So that's just a little simple, obvious example of me having to be patient, me having to wait. But it's not all about waiting, it's about starting to take back control of your life. And in the spiritual path, we realise that we're not in control of everything, but we realise that we can start to control ourselves. We can control our thoughts, we can control our actions, we can control how we react to things in our lives. So for myself, I've found that through meditation I am starting to develop patience, and I am probably one of the worst overthinkers of all time. I've always been such an overthinker, making plans, and the plans have got to go exactly the way I want them to go. And then if that plan doesn't work, then there's a plan B, which I then follow, etc., etc. I've shared these things before. But through meditation, I've learned that I'm really not as in control of the things in life that I thought I was. But I can endure them. I can be present at the moment that I'm in. And as I've said before, the only moment that is here is now. If you're watching this video now, it's now. If you watch it tomorrow, it will be now then. And this is the essence of mindfulness. Mindfulness is being aware of our surroundings, the things that are happening to us, what's happening, but not necessarily trying to force things to go a certain way that we want them to go in. And let's face it, everybody has a different idea about the way they want things to go in their lives. We all have a different idea. So if everything in life went exactly my way, the way I wanted it to go, then that wouldn't suit somebody else. So another thing that we can gain from patience is we can gain compassion from it, because we start to realise that the world doesn't revolve around us specifically. We're not the centre of existence. We're not the centre of the universe. We share a world, with 7 billion other human beings and countless quintillion other creatures. And the world doesn't exist for us specifically. But the world is a wonderful place. And we're here on this earth, in this incarnation, to learn, to remember why we're here, what we're here for, to get back to the source from which we came, and to develop love and compassion, kindness for other people and for other beings generally. And without patience, it's impossible to develop those particular skills. So the very act of just sitting down to meditate, of just calming our minds, being still, being silent, puts us on the path to developing the skill of patience. And something that came to me when I was meditating this week was that silence is the language of patience. Sometimes it's best to just be silent. Develop silence, and we learn silence through meditation. But in our many interactions with other human beings especially, it's very easy to be reactive. It's very easy to get angry. It's very easy to get frustrated. It's very easy to argue. It's very easy to want and to attempt to put across your own point all the time. But the more we realise that the world does not revolve around us, and the more we respect others, the more we realise that there is an incredible power in that moment of silence. We're so used to living this fast-paced life where we have to have instant reaction, instant gratification, instant entertainment. We're not used to waiting around for things anymore, not like our parents and our grandparents were. They spend a lot more time not being entertained in the way that we are, having to wait for things. Just something simple like boiling a kettle was, a much longer process, or, cooking a meal There were no microwave ovens. There were no air fryers. There were none of these modern gadgets that we have now. And things took time. And the one old saying is, good things come to those who wait. Waiting is a good skill to learn. It's not the entirety of patience, as I said, but learning to wait patiently is good. It's something that we need to learn. And though this doesn't sound very glamorous or very exciting, it actually helps us to remain in a place of equilibrium, a place of calmness. So next time you're in a queue at the post office, at the supermarket, and you're there, and you're tempted to fidget, to scan the shelves, to get your phone out, just think, this is an opportunity for me to develop patience in this situation. Next time somebody challenges you and says something that you don't like, something that's cruel, hurtful, unkind, or someone maybe accuses you of something that you know you're not guilty of. I'm not saying don't defend yourself, but what I'm saying is stop for a moment, just pause and let the silence work in your favour. In taking that pause, we can save ourselves from so much grief, so much heartache, and so much pain and suffering. Next time you're driving in the car and somebody pulls out on you, somebody's driving too slowly in front of you, somebody's driving too close behind you, maybe, take a deep breath and just remember, you are in control. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to get impatient. You can use this opportunity to develop patience in your life. And every day gives us countless opportunities to develop patience. It may not be exciting, it may not be a glamorous concept, but believe me, it will change your life for the better if you can just develop a little bit of patience. Thank you for being patient enough to listen to this video till the end. I'll see you very soon, and in the meantime, just be a little bit patient. Namaskar.